Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Watchlist. Basically, think of this as a monthly TV guide for me to let you know what and when TV shows that I'm interested in, that maybe you're interested in, are coming out. Like always, in the description down below, I'll include any links to any trailers that may be available to anything that I bring up in this watchlist. On November 14th, on what I guess is now called YouTube Premium, which was originally like RedTube, basically a YouTube original series called Origins is coming out. It seems like a very interesting thing from the trailer I saw. It's like a science fictional show where basically there are these people, like, it seems like they're colonizing a different planet potentially, and then there's this whole situation of like there's these people that were chosen, and a lot of these people that were chosen are people who are trying to get away from their problems. So it's like, oh, this is a new opportunity to start fresh. A lot of their history is wiped, so they end up getting sent to this space station, or ship rather, but the people that were there are already gone. At least that's what they think it is. So it seems like it's this, like, it almost seems like it's kind of got like this horror element to it. It's not, it feels like it's almost got like an Aliens vibe to it, in a sense of like there's something going on in the ship. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily a monster. It seems like it might be kind of like a monster type of situation. I don't know, like, just from what I saw from the trailer, it seemed very interesting. Like I said, it's science fictional, so I guess science fictional thriller might be what they're kind of going for with that. So Tom Felton's in it, which is interesting. Like, obviously best known probably like Draco Malfoy from the Harry Potter movie, so that's pretty interesting. So yeah, just throwing that out there. November 14th, all the episodes will be out. Kind of does like a Netflix thing. So next up, on November 16th on Netflix, we have the Kominsky Method. It's basically like this comedy. It's got Michael Douglas and Alan Arkin in it. Essentially, it seems like it's like all these two old friends who are basically trying to figure out their lives, like obviously dealing with family. In Michael Douglas's case, it's like also dating. And just like, it just seems like it's kind of just a fun time, especially if you're looking for something on a more like comedic side of things. But it does seem like it does kind of have a drama element to it, as well as them trying to, you know, especially when it comes to like figuring their lives out, and, you know, just like Alan Arkin's character to kind of like not really liking his job and just stuff like that. So it seems very interesting, like I said, especially if you're looking for something on the more comedy side of things. Also on that same day, also on Netflix, we had the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. It's a movie that's coming on Netflix, which interestingly enough is also coming out in select theaters. It's by the Coen brothers, which I don't really know directors really like that, but they made True Grit and No Country for Old Men, interestingly enough. Two movies I'm not that familiar with, but I know a little bit about. But I thought this movie seemed interesting just from the premise of it, because it seems almost like it's an anthology movie in certain regards of like, it's like multiple stories are being told, but it seems like it's all kind of like connected stories, and they seem like they're kind of their own thing, but there is like a string kind of connecting them. I think it's actually kind of like the character itself, Buster Scruggs, might be that connecting factor, but I mean, I don't know. From the trailer, it seems very interesting just because like there's a lot of familiar actors you'll find in the movie. But it seems like it's kind of got this drama feel to it, you know, with all this, also this kind of like dark sense of humor. And maybe that kind of applies to a lot of the Coen brothers films. Like, I hear their names a lot, I'm just not 100% sure. Like, if you probably listed off a movie, I'd be like, oh yeah, I've seen that, and people will be like, oh, that's a Coen brothers movie, which, you know, but they're a name that I constantly hear come up. It's just like, I'm just not really, especially when it comes to like directors and stuff like that, it's just not something I'm that familiar with. But it's got this nice Western aesthetic to it, so it just seemed like an interesting movie, and especially the whole like it being in select theaters and also being on Netflix, because I hear that happens sometimes, and in particular in other countries. Sometimes like something will come out in theaters here when in actuality in other countries it might come out only on Netflix. That's me just getting into something that's not really too important in this discussion, but it was a kind of a fascinating thing. And finally, also coming out on Netflix, also on the same day, is we have SheRa and the Princesses of Power. This is kind of like a reboot of the SheRa cartoon on Netflix, which I'm not that familiar with SheRa. I know a little bit about that world in the sense of I'm familiar with He-Man, but even then it's like, I assume that was the same universe. I mean, I think it is, because they even mentioned Grayskull, but it's like, I don't really know that much about SheRa. And even He-Man, I know the old school cartoon. I don't know if that's considered Hanna-Barbera, because that might not be Hanna-Barbera, but I'm slightly familiar with that. And then there was like the Cartoon Network one that came out in like the early to mid 2000s that I liked. It's just been a while, so I don't remember it that well. But SheRa is a character I know nothing about, because even picking up from the trailer, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Basically, she's from this group who might actually be bad guys, but she was kind of raised and groomed to believe that these other people, these princesses and her people are bad guys. And so her stumbling across the power and eventually becoming SheRa, which she gets named at by one of the princesses, and it's just kind of like, oh wow, that's crazy. Like, it seemed like an interesting premise on its own, and for her, it's like, no, like, she's even trying to tell someone that's like her best friend, like, no, we were the bad guys, like, these people are the good guys, and it's such an interesting premise behind it. I like the animation style. I know I'm probably wrong in this regard, but it kind of slightly reminds me of Steven Universe. I'm sure I might be like wrong on that factor, but it's like, it's hard to describe like what that animation style looks like. I think I've heard people gripe about its animation style. I might be thinking of the whole Thundercats Roar situation, but just from what I can see on this trailer, it seemed very interesting in regards to just the story and just everything about it, the pretty dopeness of like all these different princesses that she's going to be joining forces with and stuff like that. Seems like it's got a nice sense of humor while also kind of being very actiony. You know what? It kind of reminds me, even though I've never really watched it, it kind of reminds me, because of the art style and just the essence of the show, it kind of reminds me of Steven Universe. But because I am slightly more familiar with it, it kind of also reminds me a little bit of Adventure Time, just because I've seen a lot of Adventure Time, not all of it, but quite a bit of it. So it kind of reminds me of those two shows being blended together. This is also being made by DreamWorks, was pretty dope. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. I'm very, especially this potentially being my first experience with SheRa, I'm very interested, to check it out and see what it's all about. So, and that brings this month's watch list to an end. I know it's a fairly short one. There wasn't really a lot that was coming out this month that I was really that interested in. These are the things that I was the most interested in, just because a lot of stuff that's coming out this month are like new seasons of stuff that I'm like, I haven't checked out yet and I don't really know much about, so I can't really comment on. So do know ahead of time, I do know there's a lot of stuff coming out this month that just might not be up my avenue, but still, like always, if there's stuff that's coming out that you think me or somebody else might be interested in, don't be afraid to leave it in the comments down below. Really, that's all I want to talk about in this video. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, love to fullest, enjoy it. Good day and good